Rewinding back to the summer of 1995, and the power was on. Only 2 years after their debut on the small screen and taking the world by storm, the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were set to take things to a whole new level on the big screen in Power Rangers, the movie. It was amazing how far this franchise had come in only 2 years, and what seemed like a very hokey concept based off a Japanese show went on to become arguably the most successful kids show in TV history. The bright coloured spandex costumes, the over-the-top monsters, the transformer-like vehicles, the weapons, the martial arts moves, Power Rangers was carving out its legacy in such a short span of time, and fast forward over 30 years and it has just celebrated its 30th year with the reunion special Once and Always. I have done a 2-part retrospective on this series which covered the first 4 seasons of Power Rangers, so please do go check this out, as well as a video on the Once and Always special. Power Rangers is such a vast topic to cover with so many seasons and different sets of Rangers to cover, but I'm keeping it simple today, and I'm just focusing on the 1995 movie. Now, during the first half of 1995, this was around the time when I was really getting into Power Rangers. The show was in its 2nd season and one of the big focal points was Tommy the Green Ranger. He was at a point where he was running low on his powers, so storyline wise, it was as if we were watching his last run with the Power Rangers. I had seen pictures and adverts of the new Ranger, the White Ranger, and given at the time that there was no social media and the internet was just starting up, there was speculation as to who this new Ranger was. Obviously it turned out to be Tommy, and I was in the midst of the season 2 run when he was still the Green Ranger and the movie had just been announced to be released in the summer. I put 2 and 2 together and said he becomes the new White Ranger. But where does that fit in the Power Rangers timeline? Now here is where things from my perspective go all over the place with the main timeline, so I will just summarize with this. The 2-part story White Light I watched after I'd seen the movie. I also watched the 3-part story, The Ninja Encounter, just right before I'd seen the movie itself. So I went from watching season 2, the first half, in order to seeing the newbies Rocky, Adam and Aisha joining the Rangers, Tommy leading the Rangers in the new feature movie, to then Tommy going from the Green Ranger to the White Ranger. And just to add to this messy continuum, the 2-part story, The Power Transfer, I saw after I had seen the 95 movie, so that explained the departures of Jason, Zach and Trini. Still confused? Well, I am, and I had to write all that stuff down. Basically, I watched the continuity for a time out of order, so watching it back retrospectively and in order after all these years, it made a lot more sense. The movie itself served as a setup for the 3rd season. It was released in between seasons 2 and 3 of the show, but provides a different explanation for the Rangers gaining their new powers and Zord vehicles. There was a whole range of changes and additions to the Power Rangers for this movie, starting with the first and the most obvious, the costumes. This is an extract from a Hyper Beast article I found online. Maintaining bright tones and diamond accents, the Power Rangers the movie suits start with a spandex base, treated with latex outfitted with urethane armor and vinyl cuffs, while the fiberglass helmets build on the original designs for a more distinct, stylized look to top each of the Rangers' 6 costumes. I just basically read all that as it was just more stylized than what we were used to getting from the TV shows. I should have just used that instead, really. They certainly have more glitter and they look more metallic, like it was like mini armor. I personally prefer these costumes to what we saw in the 2017 movie. The movie saw the introduction of a new ninja powers called the Ninjetti, which gave them new ninja powers and costumes, with each ranger given the spirit of an animal. The power morphs were all changed up for the movie. They do start with the morphs from the TV show, but it is given a more sci-fi dramatic feel to it. It also has them morphing in a different order. On top of the powers, they were given new Zords. Gone were the Thunder Zords from the TV show, and in came the Ninja Zords, each with a different animal that when combined together makes the Ninja Megazord. They also had new allies, Dulcia, a Master Warrior Princess, who helps the Rangers acquire their new powers. Then there's Fred Kelman, a young boy who befriends the Rangers and helps out during the movie when his dad and all his parents of Angel Grove are hypnotized and are ordered to leap to their doom. There were new enemies for the Rangers to deal with in this movie. First was the Tengu warriors, bird-like humanoid creatures that were much more tougher to deal with than the putties from which the Rangers were used to. Lord Zed and Rita Repulsa, fresh from the series, are here, but they're more in the background. Gordar is with them, but there is no Squat, Babu or Finster. Instead, they are both replaced with a pig-like creature named Mordaunt, who is given absolutely no background or explanation of his origins. Lord Zed is responsible for bringing about the main villain of the movie, Ivan Ooze, described as a being made of a purple ooze substance and is considered true evil, although he has a comical and charming side to him which makes him a more likable villain. He is responsible for the Tengu warriors, and he has also the ooze creatures whom he sets upon the Rangers with their first meeting. He also has his twin machines, the Ectomorphicons, which he hypnotized the parents of Angel Grove to help him dig up from the ground. There does come a point in the movie where he bonds with one of the actors to become a big, powerful monster. The fight scenes in the movie were heavily ramped up and were a lot more fun, chaotic, fast and hard-hitting. The movie featured an awesome soundtrack with the highest profile musical talent the series had been associated with up until that point. The soundtrack helped illuminate the movie and give it a big time feel, which really differentiated it from the music used in the TV show. As for the movie itself, well, as I tend to do with these retrospectives, I give a summarized run through of the main plot. But as you've seen some of the plot through what has already been mentioned with some of the features I've been talking about, I will keep this particular run through very brief. So here we go. We open to scrolling credits similar to what is seen in the Star Wars movies, talking about Zordon coming to Angel Grove and establishing a command center to battle the forces of evil. He had a group of young warriors whose identities remained a guarded secret, with the tradition continuing in the present day. Cut to the Rangers, who are participating in a charity skydive in anticipation for Orion's Comet, which is set to pass through Angel Grove. A giant purple egg has been discovered at a construction site. Lord Zed and Rita arrive on the scene and release the captive of the egg, the morphological being named Ivan Ooze. Zordon has been made aware of Ooze's presence and summons the Rangers to the command center, where he tells them of Ooze's history and how a group of young warriors led him into a trap when he was locked away for 6,000 years. The Rangers head to the site to find him. He gets to them first and unleashes his Ooze henchmen on them. A big fight erupts, and after being overpowered by the Oozemen, the Rangers move into action and dispose of the Oozemen in some very entertaining, high-hitting fight scenes. However, they end up losing their powers completely, but this was after Ooze has infiltrated the command center and destroyed it, leaving Zordon in a dying state and the Rangers completely powerless. Alpha sends the Rangers to the distant planet Phaedos to obtain the great power and save Zordon. Meanwhile, Ooze has taken over and traps Lord Zed and Rita in a snow cone, whilst Gordar and Mordaunt become his servants. Ooze then creates his Tengu warriors and sends them to kill the Rangers. He then tricks young kids into taking his Ooze to their homes, where the parents get hypnotized, and then they are used to dig up his Ectomorphicons. Meanwhile on Phaedos, the Rangers are attacked by the Tengus, but then are rescued by the warrior princess Dulcea. She is initially cold toward the Rangers and tells them to leave the planet, until they tell her that they were sent by Zordon. She unrelents and agrees to help them, and takes them to the ancient temple where they can acquire their new powers. She helps awaken each Ranger's animal spirit, but then they must go alone to the monolith which houses the great power. On their way to the temple, the Rangers encounter two major hazards. First, a fossilized dinosaur skeleton which attacks the group, and Tommy eventually dispatches. And then they face the Stone Gargoyle Guardians, to which they use their ninja powers for the first time, and then after a tough battle, the gargoyles are beaten. The temple opens, and then they go on to acquire their brand new Ranger powers. Back on Earth, the Ectomorphicons have been released. Ooze then sends the parents to jump to their deaths. Young Fred Kellerman, whose dad is amongst the parents, tells the other kids and Bulk and Skull, who head to the construction site, to try and save their parents. The Rangers have returned to Earth and they summon their new Ninja Zords and form the Ninja Megazord and battle away with one of the Ectomorphicons. One of them is destroyed, and this enrages Ivan Ooze, who takes control of the second one and engages the Rangers in battle. Being completely overpowered by Ooze, the Rangers head to space with Ooze hot on their trail. They fight him and they lure him into the path of Ryan's comet. After some quick and crude thinking by Aisha, Ooze comes face to face with the comet, which kills him off.
Oh no.
The spell on the parents is released and then they reunite with their children. The Rangers return to the command center, but Zordon has unfortunately died. They mourn his loss until Tommy remembers that with the great power, all things are possible. They come together, they bring Zordon back to life, and everybody rejoices. Back in Angel Grove, everything has returned to normal and a celebration is happening, thanking the Power Rangers for saving the day, as the movie comes to an end. Oh, and one last thing. Goldar thinks he's the new ruler of the universe. That is until Lord Zed and Rita return, and then we end with a okay. As far as summaries go, that is one of the shorter ones I've done. The movie was, well, badly acted. It was cheesy, and it was really only meant for fans of the TV show. But that said, I like it, even though I don't think it holds up that well. Critically, it got mixed reviews from movie critics, with comments like a barrage of spectacular special effects, a slew of fantastic monsters, a ferociously funny villain, and most important, a refreshing lack of pretentiousness. And other comments were like, as close as you can get to the absolute nothing and still have a product to project on the screen. Wow. Now let's be real, this movie was never going to win any Oscars, not that it means a great deal in the eyes of a lot of people these days anyway, but it wasn't really designed that way. It was a way to capitalize on the success of Power Rangers as a brand, as any successful TV brand will do. It sold a lot of new toys and did a box office number grossing $66.4 million, and all in its first week, and it was ranked 4th in the movie charts, behind Apollo 13, Pocahontas, and Batman Forever. So it was considered a success, but in terms of story and acting, this is where the movie falls down. The acting in Power Rangers has never been its strong suit, but for such a big budget movie, the writing and the dialogue could have been so much better. It just felt like a regular Power Rangers episode in that respect. I mean, a bit more drama, conflict on top of the action could have given the movie a lot more range and dynamism. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more in the way of romance from Tommy and Kimberly, like we saw from time to time on the show. And no, nothing X-rated. Another thing that is very jarring for me is the lack of Jason, Zach and Trini. Yes, we know the story of why the actors left, but given that they were such a huge part of the show's success after the first season of Power Rangers, not having them here feels like such a letdown. But after a time, Rocky, Ada and Aisha did grow on me, and I'm actually glad that they were in this movie. When compared to the 2017 version, that movie has better acting and better drama. Unfortunately, in my opinion, the costumes and the Zords were not as good as they were in the 95 version, and then this route they took with a Breakfast Club style dynamic drama with the Rangers was not really my cup of tea. The OG version will always be the one for me, but then that's just my personal preference. To finish things off, Power Rangers the movie is a very cheesy nostalgic trip down memory lane when you watch it in retrospect. You see clearly who the target audience was for this movie. It was the combination of a 2-year success story on TV being brought to life on the big screen. It does have some very fun action scenes, a fantasy adventure with elements of The Wizard of Oz and Star Wars sprinkled in. Now, it is strictly for fans of the franchise, and it does have a cult following after 28 years, and it will be celebrating its 30th anniversary in the year 2025. It is the one and the only Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the movie. Thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you liked it, and if you want to see more, please remember to like, share and subscribe. Thank you.